Well, good morning. Happy Monday. It is August 14th, also known as Back to School Monday. Yay, we finally made it. So, I want to share with you the latest data here in the Austin metro area. These stats were put together by Eric Bramlett, another broker here in town, but I like the way he charts it out. So, this is looking at July data, just another look at it. So, total sales were down in both the total five county metro area as well as the city of Austin, down about 5 to 6%. Pendings were up in July year over year. If you'll remember, last year rates started climbing in March, kind of peaked out in June, dropped in July, went back up in August last summer. But by then, the shock of the interest rates was really hitting the market. We had no sales going on last summer. So we're a little up, but still significantly low in terms of pendings. New listings are down in July 24% and 23% in the city. So again, it's hard to explain to people, but we don't have more people selling their homes. We have that many fewer buyers buying homes, and that's what's allowing the inventory to build up. So we don't, it's not like we're flooded with inventory. I'm selling properties in some areas that only have three, four, five homes of competition, but nothing's moving because there's just that many few buyers looking in that area right now. Average sold price and median sold price last year were down somewhere between 8 and 10% in the five county area, and we're down maybe 9 to 11% in the city. And the city has fewer new builds. New builds right now are kind of picking up a bigger percentage than historically normal because they can offer closing cost incentives, they can offer credits, stuff like that to push their product, whereas a traditional homeowner typically isn't doing that. Months of inventory obviously were up over last year as well. So this is a high level look at July. Wanted to show it to you in a couple of charts. So here's the median sold price over the last 12 months. Obviously, this is last year. We had a really hard drop. That's where it really just dropped. Last year was, if you want to call it a crash or a correction, honestly, it probably happened in 2022 and the early part of 2023. Now we're back to kind of the seasonal camel hump, if you want to call it that, where we get kind of the spring bounce, you get the prices going up. We probably peaked in June, and now we're starting to see, you can see it tail right here. We're starting to see the median home price second half of the year is going to start coming back down. Our low was about 430. About 440, 430 on the median home price. I expect we'll be close to that by the end of the year. Metro pending units. So this is looking, 2019 is the top number. 2022 is the blue. You can really see how it dropped hard once interest rates went up. We've been a little steadier this year, but again, we crested way early in terms of pendings because rates were a little lower. I'm going to show that to you here in a chart in a second. But as the rates went up from May on, it's just really put pressure down on buyers. So we're already seeing pending units coming down earlier than normal. So here is a look at original price versus sold price. This is current data as of this morning in the MLS. This is the last 12 months. Ignore these last two bars right here. That's August. We're still in August. So those two bars are going to shift a lot, but everything else is kind of locked in place. So, 2023 started right here. And so the blue is closed prices. You can see the market on price went down until about February. Then it had a little spring bounce. We went up to about 475 was the median home price in Austin in June. Last year was the peak around May at 550. So we came down about 75,000, peak to peak, summer to summer. But when you look at July, and I've already reported on this, you can see the sales went down. We already came down 475 down to 460 in July. I predict August is going to come in lower, and I think we'll be lower on the list prices as well. So the green is original list price. This is where sellers tried to start as a market, not as an individual property, but as a market. You can see the list prices have started to come down, but what we are starting to see is the gap get a little closer. And so there was a huge gap between what people wanted to get in March and what the market was willing to pay. Same with February. But as we went along, you're starting to see it get a little closer. Sellers are getting a little more reasonable with their list price, and buyers are starting to finally see prices that are making more sense. So those prices are starting to come together. It's still not touching. I don't think it will touch. It generally doesn't. But the closer it gets, the more you know you're getting closer to a balanced market. So anyways, we'll see where August comes in. My prediction is that's going to come a little lower. The big story continues to be interest rates, and they are going up. So right now, as of this morning, we're about 7.19, call it 7.2. If I go all the way back here to April, we were in the low sixes, call it 6.1, and now we're 7.1 or 7.2. So we're up an entire interest rate point than where the middle of the spring buyers got to buy a home. So if you look at the beginning of the year, obviously it rocketed up. We've talked about this, but then it came back down and it stayed down for several months right in the peak of the spring buying market. So March to mid-May, you were somewhere in the mid sixes to low sixes on interest rates. And we saw that. I just showed you the chart. We saw that the prices went up. We saw enough activity, kind of driving the market. But again, what happened was interest rates spiked up at the end of May, back up to 7, and they have not come down. They have stayed there May and June and July and now August, and they're going up. There's a lot of pressure. So even though we're starting to see inflation slowly taper down, there's now some other storylines in the bond market that are putting more pressure on to make yields go up. And so that's really something we want to watch. I want to show that to you in a different way. What does this mean for the market? So this is a little chart that was sent out by Cornerstone Lending. Thank you. But it just shows you, well, what is the impact of mortgage rates on how buyers are looking at it? So let's say back in April, you could buy a $600,000 house for 6%. Your payment was going to be just under $3,600. That's your payment. So now let's say, we waited. We want to buy the same house. The seller's still trying to get 600 grand because that's what somebody closed for in April or May. But now that buyer has to pay almost $4,000 for the same house. $400 roughly is what they're going to pay. There's two problems with that. Obviously, maybe the buyer could do it, but what we're seeing is a lot of those buyers now can't qualify for 600. They need that house to get the same payment, $3,600. I now need that house to be 550, right? So there's 3650 right there. So I need the house to be 50 grand cheaper to keep my payment about the same. So what's happening is buyers obviously want to keep, they have a payment number. They always do. And so they're shopping by payment. And what's happening is that's why you see these gaps in the market. It's why the list prices have to come down. It's where buyers are finally starting to see things come more relative to the payment that they need. But when interest rates go up, you're going to see a lot of times those list prices come down. There's one last thing I wanted to mention, and it's kind of hard to explain, but I'll call it the domino effect. I had some comments this weekend. We got some feedback on a couple of my listings, and people were saying, hey, it's a great house. I like the house, but you know what? My buyers are still waiting to sell their house. And so if you really think about it, a lot of the buyers are actually sellers on their home as well, and their home is having trouble selling. And so what's happening is it's like a log jam, right? It's like, well, they can't go buy something until they sell their house, get the equity to come buy your house, but you can't sell your house because you need that buyer to sell. So what's happening, and then you're log jam to go buy your future house. So what's happening is we have a bit of a log jam. And so there are people trying to sell their homes, but of course, if they're having trouble, it's taking longer. They can't get the money to then turn around and write an offer on your property if you're a seller. So we're seeing that, especially if you're in an area of town that's a more expensive price point, or you're in a move up neighborhood, you're probably expecting your buyer to have to sell their house first, and that's log jamming the market. So we're seeing that. I think that's going to stay probably for the rest of the year. I'm not that confident that we're going to see interest rates come down much. Maybe if we're lucky, they'll come down into the mid sixes, but I actually think we're going to see them at or around 7% probably for the next several months. Are buyers going to get used to that? They will, but it's going to shrink the number of buyers that are in the market. And that's really the overwhelming story right now, is just the number of buyers in the market has really come down. The number of sellers is not higher than it was the year before. It's just the number of buyers have come down. Anyways, I hope this was helpful. We're going to share this data every single week. Make sure to visit at Ryan Kelly Group on YouTube. You can follow all these videos. Please click the subscribe button. That way, if you decide not to get these every week, you can just get them directly through YouTube. They'll send them to you in your email. Until then, I hope you got your kids to school today, even though it's still going to be 105. I'm going to pretend it's fall. And so I'm going to stick with that. And hopefully that changes the tune here in Austin. We got people back to school, back to work. Football season's coming up. I'm excited. But until then, talk to you soon.